Welcome to the Intentional Father Podcast, where us fathers parent our children, not by accident, but with intent. I'm your host, Aaron Stroman. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Episode 8, Season 1, Episode 8. We're going to be talking about resources, and really the idea behind this, I don't think I need to unpack this a lot because the fact that you're listening to this podcast means you already subscribe to this philosophy. But the idea that our intuitive parenting is limited and we can actually learn from other experts and grow in our parenting capabilities and skills. So how do we do that? I'm going to be giving you some resources today. Today's all about resources, some books, websites, parental philosophers that I personally have learned from and have grown in my parenting. And I'm going to start it off with a story. There's this first book I'm going to introduce you to. I was reading it when my kids were pretty young. I think my son was 4 years old. I'm reading this, and they presented this idea of communication and not always commanding your kids to do things, but making observations and allowing the kids to connect the dots in what you want done according to the observation that you make. So it's kind of a vague concept, but let me put it into realistic terms. In my house, I had this rule that my kids were to turn off the lights when they left a room, especially their bedrooms and the bathroom. A lot of parents have that rule. It's like turn the light switch off, right? Save electricity. You don't need to leave it on. And when my kids wouldn't do that, I would tell them, go turn your light off. Sometimes I would get pushback. Hey, Dad, can I wait till a commercial break? Can I wait till the end of this movie? Can I wait till I'm finished playing? And so then we would get into this back and forth debate. Now, is it reasonable to wait for a commercial? Yeah, it is. Did I always want my kids to wait for a commercial? No, not always. So this book was suggesting, hey, instead of telling your kids what to do, just make an observation and let them connect the dots. And what this is doing, it's actually it's a level of respect. If we're going to train our kids to be successful adults, your boss may ask you to do something and there's a respectful way to do it. There's a disrespectful way to do it. So it's way to communicate to our children with respect. It seemed a little soft to me at first when I was reading it in the book, but I thought I'm going to give it a try. So sure enough, my kids are watching TV. My son's 4 years old. I noticed the light on his room has been left on. So I say to my son while he's watching TV, hey, Cage, I noticed the light in your bedroom is on. And that's all I said. I didn't ask him to do anything. I simply made an observation. I kid you not. This kid stood up watching the TV. He's like walking to the hallway, keeping eye contact with TV until he can't see anymore. Turns, runs to his room, turns the lights off, runs back, sits on the couch, didn't say a word. And I was amazed. I thought, oh, it actually works. I need to start applying more from what I read in this book. So this first book is called How to Talk So Kids Will Listen and Listen So Kids Will Talk. This is a fantastic book on the parent-kid communication process. When it comes to communication, I highly recommend it. They do have some discipline philosophy in here that I don't necessarily agree with. I think it's way too soft. In my personal opinion, remove too many consequences to behaviors. But when it comes to communication, highly recommend this book. The first time I went through it was actually an audiobook, and I ended up buying the paper copy. So that's how much I like the book. So pick up this book, check it out. It's great for communication. Another book I want to recommend, I'll throw it up on the screen here. It's Just a Phase, So Don't Miss It by Reggie Joiner. This book does a really good job at explaining the different phases of childhood and adolescence, and it highlights each phase so you can celebrate it and enjoy it. And it's really good just giving some context for parents on what's normal for kids to go through at different phases in life. So that's another one. Again, I don't have it because I lent it out and they haven't given it back to me. Kevin Leman, probably my favorite parent expert. This is the birth order book. If you're going to have multiple kids, read this book, understand some of the traits and tendencies and parenting mistakes that we do because of the birth order. First child, middle child, last born, how that cycle can reset if you have gap in between kids. Really good book. Kevin also has a podcast. If you're listening to this podcast, you need to be going to Kevin's podcast. Really good podcast, really short episodes, very practical. You can even submit questions and he'll answer them. I've done it. He's answered one of mine on his podcast. One of them he didn't answer on the podcast, but he emailed me a response. So that was really considerate. He also has a couple books. Have a New Kid by Friday. Every parent should read that book as soon as you have kids. And Have a New Teenager by Friday. He made an adopted version for teenage when your kids be getting those teenage years. Really good books. So that's the birth order book. A couple of resources online that I want to show you. The first one is Axis. This is online resource for parents, connecting parents, teens, and Jesus in a disconnected world. They give you updates on the latest trends in youth culture, apps. They'll even translate words and acronyms. They have weekly updates on stuff. A lot of good resources. So you definitely want to check out Axis. And then also the Bible Project is another good website. Really good for teaching children the Bible. They have great videos. They have a YouTube channel. Really good resources if you want to make your kids biblically literate. And you'll actually learn a lot of stuff yourself as well. Okay, you're going to hear about these in another podcast when I talk about literacy. But Jim Burns wrote a couple books, God Made Your Body and How God Makes Babies. These are age-appropriate books. They're starting, the first one's at age 3 to 5, second one, age 6 to 9. Beginning the conversation around sexuality. And then Stan and Brenna Jones, they have a series of books as well that lead up into the teenage years. Again, that just do a good job at preparing parents to teach their kids about sexuality and letting it be an ongoing conversation, not just a one-time monologue. Really important when it comes to parenting. And then, of course, this is a little book that I wrote, Aaron Stroman. There we go. All this is a little commentary and a lot of, I put a lot of pictures and graphics in here illustrating the 3 books of wisdom in the scriptures, Proverbs, Ecclesiastes, and the New Testament book of wisdom found in James. And I put a little commentary to it, and I have a lot of space on the page and graphics so kids can journal and write in there. But it's one of those books I have my kids read through because I want them to read all 3 of those wisdom books before they leave my household. So little self-plug there, but it's a book called Wisdom, mostly the Bible, but a little bit of Aaron's commentary as well. Anyways, those are just some resources that I would definitely recommend. Definitely recommend. You won't go wrong with those. There's way more out there than what you can get through. But if you have a favorite, go ahead and drop it in the comments below because I'm sure others will find that helpful and valuable. And just remember, left to our own devices, we will raise our children the exact same way that we were raised by our parents. But we don't have to do it the same. We can actually improve. As great as your parents are, as great as my parents are, we can still improve on the process and do better. And we do so by reading these or going online or watching the videos utilizing these other resources and applying what we learn. So may your fatherhood be great, and may it grow to be even better. I'll catch you on the next episode. God bless, and goodbye.